defining in law personhood as beginning at conception as the key to restoring protection of the right to life for preborn children. As a senator, would you introduce, co-sponsor, or vote for legislation that would declare personhood as beginning at fertilization? I'll start with Chuck this time.
Knowing Clint's philosophy, I would say yes, he would co-sponsor, introduce, or support such legislation. Questions never come up before, but yeah, it's just consistent with his pro-life philosophy.
Yes, I would, but I want to emphasize that I think the real issue here is we get into all these debates that are so polarizing, where what we really need to be doing, if we're concerned about life, if we're genuinely concerned about life, we need to focus on enlightening people, winning the hearts and souls and minds of people. And this methodology is the most effective if we want to truly end abortion. When people are enlightened, they change their minds and they behave differently. And this is what I believed all my life. I've seen it happen as the example that I gave you. And just imagine if there's 6 million abortions today in this country a year. Imagine if only 6 million people stood up. And when an unplanned pregnancy came along, we took the time to calmly and rationally present an argument on why that might not be the best decision to take that life. I think we will win the debate if we do this. I think when we go into legislative session and try to pass constitutional amendments, I think it's all great. But the problem is, will it really solve the problem? Hearts and minds of people need to change. This is my emphasis. I've seen it over and over again to be successful, and this is the way I would approach it. That would be my primary approach.
And let me tell you an experience I had when I was at Ross Lake on a canoe trip when I was a young man. It says right in the brochure you get about Ross Lake that squalls can come up at any time. And we experienced that while out on a canoe with me and a buddy of mine and then my father in a separate canoe. We had a storm come up that we could make no progress in. We were taking on water. My father's canoe overturned, and despite the best efforts of my friend and I to paddle toward him, we could not get to him. We knew he could swim to shore, but that wasn't our immediate concern. Our immediate concern was something different. That water was colder than 50 degrees. Hypothermia would set in very quickly if we could not get to him. We were miraculously rescued, but that's not the point of the story. The point is that there was something very important that we had to pay attention to up front. And had we paid our attention to things that were different, we might have had a different outcome. Now, I've been very open in this campaign that I am not going back to Washington, D.C. to fight social battles. We are about to go bankrupt as a nation, and we need to right the ship. And my focus is on those matters. It won't matter whether I'm on the left side of the ship or the right side of the ship. If the entire ship goes under, we will all lose our freedoms, and then we'll have abortion policy like China. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to introduce legislation to do that. But I will vote my conscience on any legislation that comes before me, and I will vote in favor of it and co-sponsor it. I just need to be honest about what my focus is going to be on when I get there. If we right the ship, and I'm still in office, and we're fiscally sound, you can bet I will turn toward the things that will restore America's greatness in the social area.
Yes, I will. I liken it to the analogy I gave about slavery, where in our Declaration it was so clear that all men are created equal. And yet, in spite of that very simple and plain truth that our founders said was self-evident, we still couldn't get it right. And we ultimately had to fight a war and amend the Constitution to make it right. Now, I'm hoping there's not going to be any war over this, but I will be very happy to sponsor legislation to define life as beginning at conception, personhood, life, human life, and to protect human life from conception until natural death. And I think it's very important that we get it right. Paul's right. We do have to change hearts and minds, just like William Wilberforce did in England. But he tried hard for a long time before he finally cracked the nut. And if that's what we need to do, then that's what we need to do. We need to have the courage to do exactly that, because we will prevail, because our cause is the cause of truth.
Yes. Simple.
Ronnie, we're giving 2 minutes to answer, so if you want to fill your time.
No, really. You have a living sperm and a living egg, so it's alive before it starts. And that little rubber thing that you had there, how old is that?
10 weeks.
10 weeks. Okay. So, as I was talking to a liberal one day, and I said, you found out it's a boy, huh? I said, yeah, wow. How old? She said, well, it's about 20 weeks. I said, wow. So what are you going to do when it becomes human at 26 weeks? And he just looked at me. I said, well, you're the one that defines humanity at 26 weeks. You found out it's a boy before 26 weeks. What is it today? And he couldn't answer the question. I said, look, you know it's a boy. You've got the gender. You've got the DNA. You've got everything you need to know that it's human. If you cut it up and say, okay, give it to a forensic scientist and say, what is it? They would say, it's human. Then you take that forensic scientist and you say, well, I'm sorry, it was a fetus that was under 26 weeks. I recant everything. It's not human anymore. So the forensic doctor is going to look at this thing and say, it has everything that makes it human, that makes it a male. And he just looked at me dumbfounded and, of course, got very angry and started calling me names. But it starts at conception. And that's really what we have to protect. The constitutional right to life doesn't start when someone decides it should. A pregnant woman, for example, gets punched in the stomach, it causes a miscarriage. Was it an abortion? Or was it a miscarriage? Well, it depends on how she felt that particular day. Was it Tuesday? It doesn't work that way. Because she chose to make it human or not human is not her choice to make. I think God decided that it's human, and we need to follow the ways of the Lord.